You know, when we think about poverty, we usually define it by what's missing, right? Not enough money, not enough food, no safe place to live. But what if that's not the whole story? What if poverty isn't just a lack of things, but an actual powerful force that physically reshapes the most important organ we have, our brain?
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's a huge statement from a top researcher. And it's the core idea we're going to dig into today. We're going to start with the biology, how poverty literally gets inside the brain. Then we'll see how that rewiring affects our mindset and how we relate to others. And finally, we'll look at the social solutions that might actually offer a way forward.
All right, so let's dive right in at the most fundamental level, the biology. How in the world does the environment of poverty get under our skin and into our brains? Well, the main mechanism here is something called toxic stress. Now, we all know what normal stress feels like. You have a big deadline, it's tough, but you get through it. Toxic stress is a whole different beast. It's a relentless, non-stop, high-alert state. It's like a fire alarm in your head that just never, ever turns off. And when that happens, especially to a kid who doesn't have a supportive adult to help them, it can actually mess with how the brain's very architecture gets built.
And what's really fascinating and kind of scary is the biological trade-off the brain is forced to make. It's literally rewiring itself to survive the short term. The amygdala, that's our brain's threat detector, it goes into overdrive, which, makes sense if you feel like you're in a dangerous environment all the time. But, and this is a huge but, it comes at a steep price. The hippocampus, which is crucial for memory and for calming that stress response down, it actually shrinks. The brain is sacrificing long-term learning and emotional balance just to stay safe right now.
And here's the thing you really have to understand. Toxic stress isn't just caused by one single thing. It's the relentless pileup of everything at once. I mean, imagine you're dealing with poor nutrition, and the constant noise from your neighborhood is messing up your sleep, and you're exposed to violence or trauma, and you don't even have simple things like books around. It's this constant barrage of risks, this cumulative burden that just grinds down a developing brain.
Okay, so we've seen how the brain's physical hardware can be altered. Now let's talk about the software. If the brain is being rewired for survival, how does that actually change our mindset, our behavior, and the way we see the world around us?
And this brings us to a really big question researchers have been tackling. When your mind is constantly, desperately focused on what you lack, what does that do to your connection with other people?
There was this incredible study that just illustrates this perfectly. Researchers basically created two groups. They made one group feel a sense of scarcity and the other a sense of abundance. Then, they showed both groups pictures of other people in physical pain. The results? Honestly, they're pretty shocking. The group that was primed to feel scarcity rated the pain of others as way less intense. It's like their own feeling of not having enough turned down the volume on their ability to feel for someone else.
So the takeaway here is really stark. A scarcity mindset, that constant, grinding focus on survival, it literally dampens our empathy. It seems that when your own well feels dry, the brain just has less water to offer for someone else's thirst.
So we've seen the problem, and it's a big one, at both the brain level and the behavioral level. But the research doesn't just leave us there. So let's pivot and shift our focus from the problems to the potential solutions. Solutions that aren't just about one person, but about our communities.
Okay, so a key concept for finding a way out is something called social capital. And no, this isn't about money in the bank. It's about the value of your network. It's the friend who texts you about a job opening, the neighbor who helps you out when your car breaks down, the mentor who gives you that one piece of advice that changes everything. It's the resources you can only get through the people you know.
And that social capital gets even more powerful when you pair it with financial literacy. Now, this isn't about, being a Wall Street genius. It's about the practical, real-world skills, how to manage a budget, how to understand a loan, how to make smart choices with the money you have. It's the knowledge that can turn a good idea into a real sustainable business.
So how do these two things actually create real change? Well, you can think of it like a three-step pathway. First, your social network, your social capital. It opens doors. It gives you access. Second, through those connections, knowledge starts to flow. You learn about financial literacy, you pick up other critical skills. And finally, when you've got both the access and the knowledge, that's when you're truly empowered to see and grab opportunities, like starting that small business you've been dreaming about.
And a 2021 study just nails this down perfectly. The real power isn't just in who you know, or even just in what you know. The magic happens when the people you know help you learn what you need to know. All right, for this last section, let's pull the lens all the way back. Let's connect all these dots, the science, the psychology, to the bigger picture, our society, our policies, and some of the myths we tell ourselves about poverty. Now, this piece of data from 2020 might actually surprise you because it really challenges a common stereotype. It's absolutely true that poverty hits minority communities harder in terms of rates, but if you look at the raw numbers of people, a different picture emerges. In 2020, the single largest group of U.S. households in poverty were white. Now, this isn't to downplay anyone's struggle at all. It's to show that poverty is a much, much bigger issue than our stereotypes often lead us to believe. So, the bottom line is this. Poverty is not a niche issue. It's not confined to one group or one city. It's a massive, widespread challenge that affects people of every racial and ethnic background in every corner of the country. Which leads us to this really frustrating reality. We have the science. We understand the biological damage that poverty can cause, and we know about interventions that can help. So why don't our policies reflect what we know? Well, the research points to this huge science policy gap, this chasm that's created by political arguments, by stubborn stereotypes about why people are poor, and by biases that stop us from just acting on the evidence. And so that leaves us right here with this final powerful question that comes straight from the research itself. We know that our early experiences physically build our brains. We know poverty can leave biological scars that last a lifetime. The real question for all of us is, what will it finally take for our society to use this knowledge, to protect the developing brains of the next generation, and to build a genuinely healthier and more productive future for everyone?